Okay, here we are, ITS128, and so today is November 29th, which is not, oh, this day or something. We have actually, today's the second to the last day, or this is the end of the okay, so this is the end of the second to the last week, and next week is the last week. So there's going to be 2 more classes. There's going to be next Tuesday's class and next Thursday's class. There is class on Thursday, right? Friday's study day. And then after that, you will be doing your finals, but for this class, you aren't going to have a final exam per se. You're just going to have a final assignment, and that's it. And it won't be due till the very end. So so you can sort of stress on your other things first. But I'm not going to make it that difficult. It's about as difficult as our assignments have been, except for there's going to be, I am throwing in a little database component. So let me show you what I have so far for I'm not ready to release it yet because I want to include an attachment, but I'm slated to release it next Monday, or next whatever that day is, at noon. Is that noon? I don't know. And I'll show you what it looks like so far. So we're going to go back to assignment 11, and we're going to. I want you to create something that looks just like assignment 11, but it's all cleaned up. It doesn't have a bunch of other crap on it. I want it to look as though you kind of started from scratch, and maybe you might want to do that, and you just have all the latest stuff. And that would be an array, a 2-dimensional array, and when you insert names in, it inserts them in sorted order, and the array sort of serves as a buffer to the database, the quote database, but it's actually a text file, and so the and when there's lots of names in your database, the fact that when you're adding and doing the maintenance, preparing the maintenance, it's all done, using an array. That should be a lot faster. That as opposed to reading and writing the friend file every time you do anything, which is how the original problem was. So I'd like you to take the interface to the array and the file, and I want you to put that into a class. Okay, and it'll be a separate file, named storage.cs or something similar. It'll be a .cs file, and it'll include the properties and the methods appropriate for doing the interfacing to the array and file, as necessary. And if you want to use a list instead of an array, that's fine, just as long as it's sorted and you sort it by last name and so on. Okay, so that's part 1. And if you actually go back to the video I did yesterday, I actually show you how to do a lot of this already. It's not complete by any means, and I did not do any of the cleaning up because I just opened up my assignment 11, which has got a bunch of other stuff from the previous assignments on there. And then for the second part, I'm going to provide you. Okay, today what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to create a database, okay, and how to put stuff in there just manually, okay, just so you get the idea of what we're dealing with. And then I'm going to provide you with this final attached a friends.db CS file, which should be kind of like this, except for it doesn't interface to an array and file. It interfaces to the database. okay? And so there's going to be the same kind of properties and methods. You're going to want to know how many names are in your database. You're going to want to insert a name, sorted. Actually, with databases, you don't have to worry about inserting things sorted, because when you ask for the data back, it's easy to sort it. And so you'll see that. So you'll see how we do that. And then deleting a name. And and then also returning a string array of names. Now, you know, if you're using a list here, then you'll probably want to return a list of name objects. Fortunately, okay, so I'm not going to have that in here, but fortunately, if you do a search on the internet and you want to find a example of interfacing to a database and a C# class, you're gonna way more likely see an example of returning a list as a result of a selection operation than a string array. In fact, you won't see a string array. You'll just see a list, because the list objects will be, you know, exactly like what a record is, like exactly what the anyway. So I will. So you'll see this later. In fact, you'll see this whole thing later. There'll be a little bit more here. But so today I'd like to pull up my assignment 11, and I can sort of briefly review the interface, the storage class interface, and then also I would like to just show you how to make a database. Let's see. For this video right here, you get that by going to resources, class videos, and then this one here. All right, so I have opened up my assignment 11, and if we start it up, recall, just to remind you, remember, it looks like this. You can load a file up. Got to find the file. I put it on my desktop, and you drill down and you find one of your friend files here, and populates up. And you remember this one here. This was the array that's just a string array. And this one uses the array where it separates the first and the last name, and then it allows you to insert. So it inserts it in alphabetical order, and so you notice the names are in alphabetical order. So if we put Mary Miller, we see it adds Mary Miller down at the bottom here, because that's what was added chronologically, but Mary Miller gets inserted in the right spot here. All right, so, oh yes, I do want to save. Okay, great. Now, in our, let's see, I want to make sure I time this right. Let me go over a little bit about creating the storage class. So I'm going to open up the form.cs file. And let's see. If we look at the code, we see things like we define some stuff up here for the array, and in here we're doing some fancy stuff to insert it into the array. And here we insert it into an array alphabetically. See, there's the while loop there, and we have the logic here for doing the inserting, where it's shifting everything down, and so on. And that is all a result of when you double click on this, or when you click on this add friend button. You see, it comes, it pops up, and it's gonna take me right to the form, to the place in the form1.cs file that's got the event handler for that button, for clicking the button. And the idea is that in a big organization or a big software project, here, you would have lots and lots of forms and lots and lots of software engineers and so on, and you know, there'd be lots of user interface screens and so on, and programmers would specialize, and you know, I think the kind of thinking and creativity that goes into making the best human-computer action or human-computer interaction screen for users, that craft is different than the craft of writing tight code that takes advantage of all the shortcuts that you can introduce to algorithms that will cut down on the computational complexity of a particular method. So so it's good to object-oriented programming in Visual Studio in particular provides a means for you to separate this stuff out, and so they, you know, the idea of a class is like a blueprint. It's like the blueprints to build a house, and you know, you design a house, and you know, it's like you design a class, you write all the code for a class, and you know, it's the same as the blueprints for the house, and you can't, but the blueprints of the house is not the house. You have to create an instance of the blueprints of the house, and in fact, you can create many instances. And so that's the idea. And now so if you're the designer of this form, you know, all you have to know is how to interface to the class that allows you to add a name, and the class that allows you to delete a name, and the class that stores the name, or the class that lets you dump out the list so you can populate the list box. You know how to populate the list box, but you know, you might not necessarily know so much about how to interface to files, you know, how to interface to text files. So so the idea is you can create a separate class. So I'm gonna, and so for the final, I want you to take this program, and I want you to you know, first of all, I want you to I'll clean it all up, and I want you to put the methods and so on, the stuff that has to do with the array and the files, into a separate class. And so to create a separate class, you would click up here on your solution, the project name, and you can add a new class. Add a new class, and I'm going to name this class storage.cs. So now I've got a new .cs file, and here it is over there. And there is not a form associated with it. It's just the file. Whereas this one is a .cs file, but it does have a form associated with it. That's why this says partial class, because it's only part of the class. The other part of the class is this thing, and it's actually, this is actually a you know, C# file also, but it's displayed in this nice way, and that's Visual Studio. Visual Studio provides this nice thing that lets you see this form in a visual way. Okay, so here, okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure that the namespace is the same as the namespace here, and it is. That's good. So it's going to compile together, and let's make this a public class. And so we're going to want to have some internal fields and some internal data. One would be the information having to do with the array. So we can come over here and we can sort of grab that. That's like this stuff about. And I'm going to put that over here and put that there. And I'm not going to fool around with the single array. I'll just do the double array. And so that's that data. And Did I have anything? No, I did not. Now, okay, so the members of a class, the visible members of a class are those things that where you have the class name or the array, the object that's of the type class, and then a dot, and then there's either a property or a method or a constructor. So there's the constructor, which is used to create the class to begin with, and then there's properties, and like this here is a property that the user will want to get at, because that value is the actual size of the array, and then we're going to want a method to allow somebody using this to insert into the array and to insert into this array and to get a list of the array and to delete a name. Okay, so let's first start by making a constructor, and so that's just simply public storage. This is how programmers will will create a new instance of it. So it's whenever we do anything like this, where here. Well, here we're creating a new, there's always a variable name involved. And this here, for example, is a dialog result type, type variable. And, so we're going to have the same kind of thing where we're going to have an object that's going to be a type storage type object. And with that storage type object, there's an array in there, and these methods and so on to be able to access it. Okay, so that's the constructor. And then we're going to want the ability to get this out. And so that'll be a property. We could make this public, and then it's just a variable out there that anybody can read and write, but we don't want anybody to be able to write it, because we want to control that. That's control. The value of that is something that we want to have strict control over, because it keeps track of the last free spot in the array, the first free spot in the array, and presumably all the spots before that point are taken, and so that's the size. It's the size of the array. So for that, then we create what's called an accessor to access it, as you know, and so it's public, and it's an integer, because it's going to be a number, and we called it array size, or no, what do we call it anyway? So let's call it array size. Okay, that's not what we're calling it in here, but out here, but on the outside, let's call it array size, and we can do. And so we're only going to provide a get accessor. We're not going to provide a set. So that would be, and all that is to return. Doesn't have to do any calculations. Just return first free index, just that. So that's it. So so you can say, your thing dot array size, and that value will be what this is. Okay, and then let's create a method for adding into this array. So that would be something like public, and I can return true or false if we're successful. If we're successful, we inserted it in. If we were not successful, it could be because the name's already in there. And I'm going to call it add name, and I'm going to take as a parameter the name. And so right in here, why don't I just find where I add some name, add a name over here? This one. This is where I add a name. Well, I'll copy all this, but there's no message box. there's no message, you know, there's no message box here because we're not a form. So this has got to be a bool, and this has got to be an int, and and then I'm not going to keep track of this stuff here. I might later, and there's no message box error, so we'll just return a false. Else, return false. If it's true, then we're going to insert the name, and let me just find the insert code. It's this code. That would be here. So let me just grab this code here. Copy and paste. So I don't need to declare index again. Okay, so this inserts it just like it does before into the array, and everything's fine. Okay, so that handles the insert, and then we also want something to dump out the list. Not all paths return a value. Okay, so if it works, we want to return true. That's pretty smart that it's able to trace through all the paths till we're done, till it's done. And if there's no return statement in any of them, it tells you. Real-time compiling. As you type, compiles as you type. All right, so let's put in a method, a little method here, so we can so we get back a string array with all the names. So that'd be like right from right here. We could do public, and we're returning a string array, so it's going to look like this. And I'm going to name this method list of friends, and so it's going to go. Oh, so now here we need to. Well, let's just. I'm going to create a string array right here, and then I'm going to load up the string array, and then I'm going to return the string array, like from there. So first I have to declare a string array, string, and I'm going to call it list names, just so we can keep track. And that is a new string that can be as big as size, I guess, constant size. And so here we're creating a new thing. It's a string array thing, and this is how we do it. This is the constructor. This is the constructor for a new string array. Constructs it, and then lets this thing point to it. And that's how people are going to use this thing. We're going to create a new storage object which has all the stuff available, and this is the constructor. Now, if we want to do something like initialize it with some stuff, like maybe we should initialize it with the size. We pass the parameter when we create it. We could do that, but right now we're just going to keep it easy. And so this creates that, and then now I'm just going to have to create a little loop here, which for int index equals 0, index is less than first free index, index plus plus, and we will say that list names dot index equals the let's see, the first name is array friends index 0. That's the first name, and I'm going to put a little space in between them, plus space, plus, and then the last name, array friends index, comma 1. So this fills up this list names string array with all the names, how we want it. And now we just simply need to return that because it's going to return it like that. So we just do return list names. So so this is a good start. I have a method that returns array size. I have a method which can add, where you can add a name into the array, and I have a method which will return all the names that are in there. And so to test this, let's see, should I try to, I'm just gonna, well, I'm gonna do like I did yesterday. I'm just gonna put a new button here. I'm gonna put a button here. And I'm gonna put a text box to add a name. I should put the text box first and the button after it. And I'm gonna put another list box here, make it a third list box, why not? Okay, and so I'm gonna call this list box LST friends 3 to keep track, and I'm gonna call this, oh, well, that's, let me go back to this. I shouldn't have double clicked on it. BTN, I'm gonna have it say add name, and I should change the name of this thing. Let me change the name of this thing. And it didn't change this name, so let me just change it. Okay. Uh-oh. Oh. I don't, I'm not, I hate it when this happens. All right, I messed something up pretty bad. Can I undo? Does that do? Okay. Can I undo again? So 14. Oh, I just shouldn't have that, I guess. Right. What happens if I open this up? Does it let me open it up? Okay, great. All right, so I'm not going to mess around trying to change the names and stuff. I'm going to name this thing text txt add name 3 so I can remember, keep them straight. This thing, all right, so let me double click on this. Here I am. And so first thing I want to do is, let's see, that would be, see, where did I can't find in my notes where I did this. Let's see. First, I'm going to grab out the name. string new name equals text add name3.text. And then, I got to create an instance of the storage class. So I'm going to do it right up here. I should do it at the top. In fact, I will. I'll do it at the top. This is where you should declare all that stuff up at the top, like right here. So I'm going to call it, it's going to be a storage type variable called my names. No. Names data equals new storage. Okay, so that creates a new instance of names data. Now we got all those goodies and an array in there and everything. It's called names data. And so now let's go down to my here, and I'm going to do insert new name. No. Names data dot add name parentheses new name. That adds it. And then I want to grab out the list. And so the list is, so I got to create a string array. So I got to create a string array of names list equals new string I guess new string, it only has to be names data yeah, sure, names data dot array size. I don't know if you should do it this way, but this is going to create a new string array, and it's only going to be the size of array size. It's not going to be the max, because it only has to be the size of array size. I think this will work. And then I want to say names list equals names data dot list of friends. So that returns the list of friends. And now I want to load up my list box. So I can, first of all, I want to clear it, lst friends3 dot items dot clear. First I want to clear it. Then I want to do for int index equals 0 int no, I gotta AS for array size. No, array size. ARRSIZE. Int ARRSIZE equals this. Okay. And then this goes index 0, index is less than array size, comma index plus plus. And what that's going to do is list friends 3 dot items add. Right. Names list index. Okay, so what clicking the button does is it first grabs first it grabs the name that was just entered into the text box, and you should probably check to see if there's really a name there and all that. And then this thing adds the name to the array that's inside this name's data object, which we created up above. And then this grabs out the size of the new size of the array, and this creates a new string variable, string array that's only of the size that it needs to be. And then this thing here, this is a method which will return the list of all the names, and that returns it right into that list variable there. And then this thing writes it out to the list box, to our new list box. So let's see if this works. Joe Schmo, add name. There it is. Fred Johnson, add name. There, and it's doing it alphabetically. And it even does the capitalization thing. Okay, well anyway, so that is a start for how we make a storage and so what we would do is go through form1.cs, and instead of accessing, having the code right here, you put it in a storage.cs method, accessible method. Okay, I've got about 10 minutes left. I'd like to show you, just because I should show you how to do this, how to create a database, and then after we create a database, understanding the accessing of this of a database class would make more sense. And also, if you look at chapter 11 in our textbook, it covers it in there. There's actually a section on it, or there's a couple of tutorials on it. Chapter 11. So phone book application where we create, here it creates the database and so on. And so I'm basically going to go through this thing right here, this first one where we create the database, and then we're not going to do this other thing. So to create a database, first you have to, it's a new thing, so you got to go over here, right click, it's a new add, it's a new item, and the item is a service-based database. And let's call it friends. So now, over here we got friends.mdf. And so you can click on that, and then you look over here on the left, and now we've got in our server explorer, you got to keep these straight. If you look at the tutorial, you got to keep them straight. There's a server explorer on the left and a solution explorer on the right. The solution explorer is where you have all your goodies over here. The server explorer, this is all your server stuff, and you see your database connections over here. So it's this friends.mdf file, and so in our friends.mdf file, we will have these things separately. There's tables, views, store procedures, and so on. And you have to take 148 and 228 before you cover that stuff, or you take the other database, or you take one of the database classes. Except for they don't use Microsoft SQL. In the database class they use MySQL, and it's easier to learn databases with MySQL. But anyway, but with Visual Studio and C#, it's Microsoft SQL. So we can create a new table here. I'm going to add a new table. And oh, let's see. Let's wait till this design thing opens up. And this design, it's got the word design up here. It's similar to this form.cs, or to this for forms. You know, this is nice, but what's actually created is a file which I actually ask you to hand in. And in the file, it's got like the names of these particular controls or objects, and it's got the dimensions of them in there, and the position on the screen, and all that kind of stuff. So this just converts on down into a text file. Like this is a this is a text file. This is a text file. This is just something nice that Visual Studio gives us, but really that's a text file. It's just an easier way of designing it. And same here. This down here is actually what's created. Down here is the SQL that's going to be executed to actually create this table. But when we create this table, we get this kind of visual thing up here. Okay, so we'll start out with a key. Every database table should have a key, a primary key, and it's usually something that's not associated with anything other. Its purpose is only to uniquely identify a record. And so let's just leave it an integer, an incrementing integer. In fact, let's make it incrementing integer. So I'm going to, and call ID is fine. Actually, it should be friend ID. And I'm going to make it, go over to the properties here. And to make this the primary key, it's got the primary key there, but I also want it to be auto-incrementing. So each time I add a new record, I want it to keep track of what the next number is to make it, and not me having to keep track of it. So over here in properties, I'm going to find identity specification. I'm going to click on that plus sign, and I'm going to make it is an identity specification. So I'm going to change this to oh, I got to pop this open. It is. So I'll make it true. And it'll be identity increment, and it starts at 1. So the first one that goes in is going to be number 1, and then each time it's going to increment by 1. So next one will be 2, then 3, then 4. So that's what this shows here. So we just put that over there. And then let's have a first name field. And there's all kinds of different types in databases. Ooh, look at all these different types. So someday you'll learn these different types, but they're similar to you know, the types of in C#. But I'm going to make this a variable character, and 50 is fine. So it can be up to 50 letters or 50 characters. That you can put anything you want there. And then there'll be a last name too. And that'll also be a varchar. 50 is fine. And let's say that we can't have anything null. There's got to you can't not have a last name, first name, or you have to enter something. Okay, so this right here is the SQL. Oh, let's name the table. Okay, the database is named friends. Let's name the table my friends or something. I don't know where. Just to make it different. Okay, so this is now the SQL it's created. Let's execute that SQL. Click update. What happened? What? What? Oh, well. Is there anything over here? Do I still have a friend file? No, I don't, do I? for auto increment. Identity specification, is identity true? That first name, varchar 50 is fine, no, last name, varchar 50, oops, varchar 50, no, that, let's name it my friends, update. Well, all right, let me do something different here. Something's messed up. Something's definitely messed up. It's 11:55. Let me just close this. And I'm going to, I'm gonna go here, and I'll grab this one down, doesn't matter. Open this up. Over here, add, new item, service-based database, friends, add, double click, tables, add table, my friends, ID, auto increment, first name, varchar, not that, last name, varchar, update. Oh, there we go. Preparing script, update database, and okay, now we go over here, and now we see there's a table there, and it's got the primary key and the two fields, and now we can show table data, and it doesn't show anything, but we can add stuff. Joe Schmo, Fred Johnson, Mary Miller, Mary Schmo. Okay, now let me do an SQL statement. New query. Select asterisk from my table, my friends, where last name like Schmo. Okay, execute. Ooh, Joe and Mary, yeah. Okay, so anyway, that's your introduction to SQL, and you aren't going to have to really derive anything, but you're going to have to at least understand your knowledge of classes and methods and members of the class and all that, and paralleling with your class to do the storage for the array and the file should help you be able to do that last part. And of course, I'll be here next week to help you. So, did I record that? Yes. So I will, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.